Good morning, Dr. Arvanda, and to everyone in this class. Today, I will be presenting the first part of legal and regulatory challenges, or in-depth analysis of legal challenges in public administration. So, public administration is significantly similar to other organizations when it comes to managing its affairs and resources. So, one has to comply with set of rules to ensure that operations are within the context allowed by law and that the rights and interests of the public are always prioritized. Legal challenges in public administration refer to the various legal issues and disputes that may arise in the context of government activities and decision making. These challenges can encompass a wide range of areas, including administrative law, constitutional law, and other legal frameworks that regulate the actions of public authorities. So, some of the key legal challenges in public administration are the following. Administrative law compliance, constitutional constraints, statutory interpretation, judicial review, public accountability, contractual and employment issues, ethical considerations, and other emerging legal issues. So, under administrative law compliance, it governs the actions of administrative agencies and ensures that they operate within the scope of their authority. Government agencies must adhere to administrative procedures, follow due process, and make decisions based on relevant evidence. Failure to do so can lead to legal challenge or challenges on the grounds of procedural impropriety, bias, or irrationality. So one example is failure to follow statutory provisions. So if a government unit fails to follow the specific procedures outlined in a relevant statute when making a decision or performing its function. For instance, if a government infrastructure contracts, so invitation to apply for eligibility and to bid is a requirement under RA 9184. So one example for this is a Supreme Court decided case, GR number 230322, which was decided on February 19, 2020. So petitioners Jesse L. Jumadiao and Wilma F. Pastor are found guilty of simple neglect of duty and were penalized of 6 months suspension. So what they did do or didn't do. So they failed to advertise the IAEB in a newspaper of general nation circulation or a newspaper that is published nationally. So the Supreme Court has found that inconsistent in holding the functions of BAC or the Bids and Awards Committee, members are not merely ceremonial. So they have the obligation to ensure the proper conduct of public bidding because it is the policy and medium attached to in general procurement and construction contracts under existing laws and regulations. So it is the accepted method for arriving at a fair and reasonable price and ensures that overpricing, favoritism, and other anomalous practices are eliminated or minimized. Another example also is the inadequate public consultation. So, if a government decision affects the public, such as the implementation of a major infrastructure project, and there is insufficient public consultation, so it could be challenged on the grounds that decision-making process did not involve the affected stakeholders adequately. Another example is delayed administrative proceedings. So lengthy delays in administrative proceedings such as the resolution of permits applications or disciplinary cases can be challenged. So parties affected by the delays may seek relief from the courts, arguing that the prolonged process violates their right to a speedy disposition of cases. Another example also is non-compliance with the Anti-Red Tape Act. Anti-Red Tape Act of 2007 in the Philippines aims to promote efficiency and transparency in the delivery of government services. So, failure to comply with the Act's provisions such as unreasonable delays or unnecessary requirements in the processing of government transactions can result in legal challenges. So, Currently, there are 66 criminal cases filed against government workers for offenses for violating Republic Act 11032 or the Ease of Doing Business law, and according to the Anti-Red Tape Authority. So, 8 of these cases resulted in convictions, 5 of which involves fixers within the Land Transportation Office. 2 other convictions were from the Bureau of Fire Protection and Philippine Statistics Authorities. So while one is from the local government of Tunga Leyte. So there are 42 other cases undergoing hearing in courts while 16 cases have been dismissed already. So the Artas Legal Services and Public Assistance Center has received up to 6,099 complaints and concerns. So of that number, 15,898 were resolved, so a closure rate of 98.75%. So one of the key challenges also in public administration is the constitutional constraints. So public administration must comply with constitutional provisions that define the powers and limitations of government entities. Constitutional challenges may arise when government actions are perceived as infringing on individual rights, violating separation of powers, or exceeding the authority granted by the Constitution. So, violation of due process. So, if a government agency fails to provide individuals with notice and an opportunity to be heard before making a decision that significantly affects their rights, it may be challenged for violating the constitutional right to due process. So, that thing happened to this decided cases by the Supreme Court. So, on August 18, 2020, the Supreme Court decided that the petition for certiorari was to be granted, assailing decision number 26-1 of 2016 dated July 28 of that year by the Commission on Audit, dismissing the petition for review, seeking the reversal of the letter reply of the COA Regional Office for having been belatedly filed and for being an improper remedy. So on this case, it was emphasized the due process of law as guaranteed on Section 1, Article 3 of the Constitution. It is to safeguard against any arbitrariness on the part of the government and serves as a protection essential to every inhabitant of the country. Any government act that militates against the ordinary norms of justice or fair play is considered an infraction of the great guarantee of due process. And this is true whether the denial involves violation merely of the procedure prescribed by the law or affects the very validity of the law itself. The Supreme Court held that due process is satisfied if the party who is properly notified of allegations against him or her is given an opportunity to defend himself or herself against those allegations, and such defense was considered by the tribunal in arriving of its own independent conclusions. What is offensive to due process is the denial of the opportunity to be heard. So in this decided case, petitioners were not given any opportunity to be heard and their defenses were not considered in the denial of their petition. So it is true that the finality of decision and order of execution had already been rendered in this case. However, considering the non-observance of petitioners' right to due process, the same should be set aside. It is settled that violation of due process rights is a jurisdictional defect, and that a decision or judgment is fatally defective if rendered in violation of a party's litigant's right to the due process. Accordingly, the case should be remanded to the Commission on Audit in order to resolve petitioner's appeal from the notice of disallowances on the merits. Another example is the infringement on freedom of expression. Government restrictions on freedom of speech, press, or expression that are not justified by compelling state interests may be challenged as unconstitutional. This could include censorship, restrictions on media, or limitations on public demonstrations without proper legal basis. A very famous case under this is the People of the Philippines versus Santos Reza and Rappler. So in 2020, the Manila Regional Trial Court found Maria Reza, the executive editor of the online news website Rappler, and journalist Reynaldo Santos Jr. guilty of cyber libel. So the case stemmed from a 2012 Rappler story about a businessman alleged involvement in human trafficking and drug smuggling, and his links to then Supreme Court Chief Justice Renato Corona. So despite the original story or article being published before the enactment of the law, the court considered it republished when Rappler updated it in 2014. So the court recognized the importance of freedom of speech but held that the defendants failed in their journalistic responsibilities to verify facts and publish clarifications or corrections. So, in the decision of the Supreme Court on the final note, the court considered the importance of the right to freedom of speech under the Philippine Constitution. The court acknowledged the right to speak freely without fear or retribution or retaliation, and the right of the press to freely report news and opinion without undue restraint. However, the court also noted that the freedom of the press is not unlimited. So, citing the opinion of the Philippine Supreme Court on Tulfo versus People, GR numbers 161032 and 16176 in the year 2008. This court does not turn a blind eye to some of them who twist the news to give an ambiguous interpretation that is in reckless disregard of the truth. Next example is unlawful search and seizure. Actions by law enforcement agencies that violate the constitutional protection against unreasonable searches and seizures may be challenged. For instance, conducting a search without a warrant or without probable cause can be deemed unconstitutional. So this happened on a Supreme Court decided case way back 2021. So in that case, the Supreme Court put a heavy emphasis on the general rule that no arrest, search, and seizure can be made without a valid warrant issued by a competent judicial authority. So this is because a person's right to be secure against unreasonable searches and seizures is sacred in this jurisdiction. So it is enshrined in the Article 3, Section 2 of our Constitution. These constitutional provisions prevents violations of privacy and security in person and property and protects against unlawful invasion of the sanctity of the home by officers of the law acting under legislative or judicial sanction, and to give remedy against such usurpations when attempted. So thus, in conducting arrest or search and seizure, there must be a warrant hinged on probable cause of the actual belief or reasonable grounds of suspicion to believe that the accused has committed or is committing a crime. The suspension must be supported by circumstances sufficiently strong in themselves to warrant a cautious man to believe that the person accused is guilty of the offense which he was charged. Any evidence resulting from a violation of a person's rights against unreasonable searches and seizures may or will be deemed inadmissible in court. Another example also is the violations of equal protection. If a government policy or action discriminates against a particular group or individual, so for example, without a reasonable and justifiable basis, so it may be challenged for violating the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. One of the key challenges in public administration is statutory interpretation. So, public administration operates within a framework of laws enacted by the legislature. Disputes may arise over the interpretation of statutes, leading to legal challenges. Court may need to determine the intended meaning of laws and their applicability to specific government actions. So, if there is ambiguous language in legislation, and if a law is passed with ambiguous language that can be interpreted in multiple ways, leading to confusion about its intended meaning. Courts may face the task of determining the legislative intent when the language of the law is open to different interpretations. If there is conflict between laws, courts may need to engage in statutory construction to harmonize conflicting provisions or determine which law take precedence in a given situation. In applying general or specific provisions, courts may need to determine whether the general or specific provision should prevail based on principles of statutory interpretation. Language in society may evolve. Laws drafted in the past may use language that has evolved, making it challenging to apply them to contemporary issues. On this instance, courts may need to interpret outdated statutes in a manner that aligns with the current societal norms and values. In judicial review, courts have the authority to review the legality of administrative decisions. Individuals or entities affected by government decisions may seek judicial review, claiming that the decisions is unlawful, unreasonable, or procedurally flawed. Courts play a crucial role in assessing the legality of administrative actions. One example is Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. This particular act faced challenges on grounds that it might have potential impact on freedom of expression and privacy. So the Supreme Court conducted a judicial review and declared certain provisions of the law unconstitutional. The decision led to the nullification of certain provisions or revisions of specific provisions to address constitutional constraints. Another one is the Philippine National ID System. Legal challenges were raised against this for the constitutionality of the Philippine National ID System. The Supreme Court reviewed the legality of the National ID System and it issued a decision upholding its constitutionality. The court's decision would be a result of a judicial review process. Another one is Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. This particular act faced numerous petitions challenging its constitutionality. The Supreme Court of the Philippines undertook a judicial review of the petition filed against the Anti-Terrorism Act. The Supreme Court has released procedural rules in handling petitions and applications on the controversial Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 and related laws. The rules took effect on January 15. The rules, released years after the law was implemented, cover petitions and applications concerning detentions without judicial warrants of arrest, surveillance orders, freeze orders, restrictions on travel, designations, proscriptions, and other court issuances connected to the implementation of the anti-terror law. But aside from clarifying how the law will be implemented by the authorities, the new rules are also provided some remedies for the people who will be affected by the law. Section 25 of the contested law defines the designation of individuals, groups of persons, organizations, or associations. The Anti-Terror Council, based on the law, holds the arbitrary power to designate who will be considered terrorists. This was considered dangerous by many activists who challenged the law because the ATC can designate anyone without going to trial. The council can order the designation even just basing it on their own determination, which is quite dangerous, and even without asking the side of the designee. Another mode of designation is the automatic designation of individuals and groups which are already part of the UN Security Council's list. In 2021, the High Court already voided the option where the ATC can designate upon the request of other nations. Now, under the new rules, the SC allows a remedy after designation. Rule 2, Section 1 of the Supreme Court rules allows a person to file a petition for certiorari used to review grave abuse of discretion to challenge the designation if you are designated as a terrorist. Conti said that the petition for certiorari will be based on gross misapprehension of facts and misrepresentation of the law. One example also of a law that has undergone a judicial review is the Reproductive Health Law. So, the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act of 2012, also known as the Reproductive Health Law, also faced legal challenges. The Supreme Court reviewed the constitutionality of the Reproductive Health Law, and the court issued a decision upholding its constitutionality but striking down certain provisions. So there are 8 provisions of the law, of the Reproductive Health Law, that were struck down by the Supreme Court in full or partially. Those sections are Section 7, Section 23A-1, Section 23A-2-I, Section 23-A-3, Section 23-B, Section 17, Section 3.01-A and J, and then Section 23-A-2-2. One of the key challenges is under the category of public accountability. Governments are accountable to the public for their actions and decisions. Lack of transparency, failure to provide information, or decisions that are perceived as against public interest can lead to legal challenges. This may involve demands for disclosure, access to information, or actions based on principles of good governance. Under corruption and graft, instances of corruption, bribery, or graft within government agencies, high-profile corruption cases involving public officials, such as the pork barrel scandal, have raised concerns about the misuse of public funds and the need for accountability measures. The Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, or Republic Act 3019, is a crucial legislation in the Philippines. It aims to prevent and penalize corrupt practices by public officials. Under this law, public officers can be held accountable for acts such as bribery, extortion, and misuse of public funds. In a notable case, Leonel Chavez Bacaltos, the former mayor of Sibonga, Cebu, was found guilty of violating Section 3, letter E of RA 3019. Bacaltos received an honorarium from the PhilHealth despite not being entitled to it. This caused undue injury to the government. Under unaccounted public funds, lack of transparency in the use of public funds may also involve allegations of irregularities in government spending, budget allocation, or the absence of clear accounting practices can lead to concerns about financial accountability. From 1979 to November 2016, the Sandigan Bayan Special Court for Graft and Corruption Cases received a total of 33,000 corruption cases. Among these, more than 10,000 cases were related to the malversation or misappropriation of public funds, and a little over to 7,900 cases were related to graft. On the recent events, the Commission on Audit found deficiencies in the use of government funds under the Duterte administration. Also, the Department of Health faced various deficiencies amounting to 67.3 billion, impacting pandemic response efforts. The government took steps to enhance budget integrity and accountability. So among those steps are the following. So they have reduced lump sum SPFs and rationalized SAGFs and OVAs, ended budget reenactments by timely approval of the General Appropriation Act, unified reporting requirements imposed by COA and the Department of Budget and Management, and improved reporting on budget implementation status. Under the delay in government projects, delays or inefficiencies in the implementation of public projects, and experiencing significant delays or setbacks without clear explanations or accountability mechanisms lead to wasted resources and public dissatisfaction. The COA, Commission on Audit in 2021, flagged 17 government agencies over infrastructure projects amounting to 1.44 trillion that were delayed or not completed at all. In its annual financial report, the said projects were either not executed in accordance with the plan, with noted deficiencies, not completed on time, or were not completed at all, which may result in waste of government funds or delayed enjoyment of project benefits. According to COA, this may be due to abandonment by the contractor, inefficiency in the monitoring of project implementation, poor planning or workmanship, and lack of coordination with local government units and other agencies. Of the 1.44 trillion, 1.3 trillion were for 15 foreign assisted projects of the Department of Transportation Office, Department of Transportation Office of the Secretary. So various issues related in the extension of the projects, as well as possible changes in total project costs and slippages or low to no actual physical accomplishments. The overall causes of delays in the project implementation are also resulted in the incurrence and payment of additional commitment fees for the 7 foreign assisted projects amounting to 158.224 million in current year of 2020. Under public procurement irregularities, non-compliance with procurement laws and regulations. So, if there are allegations of irregularities in the procurement process, such as bid rigging, overpricing, or favoring certain contractors, could lead to suspicion of corruption. The sixth key legal challenge in public administration is under the contractual and employment issues category. Public administration often engages in contracts and employment relationships. Legal disputes may arise over contract enforcement, breach of employment agreements, or allegations of unfair labor practices. Government agencies must navigate these issues while adhering to applicable labor laws. Job security and regularization. Contractual employees seeking regular employment status. Many government agencies hire contractual or casual employees for various positions. Disputes may arise when these employees seek regularization, claiming entitlement to the benefits and security that come with regular employment. Addressing concerns related to political appointments and nepotism. So, allegations of favoritism or nepotism in the hiring of or promotion of individuals based on political connections rather than merit can lead to disputes and legal challenges. So, this is the case on GR number 20103 last April 2024 that was decided by the Supreme Court. It was ruled that the respondent appointed as the Information Officer 5 in the Commission on Human Rights by the Commission and Bank, where his father is a member, is covered by the prohibition. So, Commissioner Malyares' abstention from voting did not cure the nepotistic character of the appointment because the evil sought to be avoided by the provision still exists. His mere presence during the deliberation for the appointment of Information Officer 5 created an impression of influence and cast doubt on the impartiality and neutrality of the Commission and Bank. Nepotism is defined as an appointment issued in favor of a relative within the third civil degree of consanguinity or affinity of any of the following: appointing authority, recommending authority, chief of the bureau or office, and person exercising immediate supervision over the appointee. By way of exception, the following shall not be covered by the prohibition: One, if the person is or persons employed is in a confidential capacity. Second are the teachers. Third, physicians. And fourth, members of the armed forces of the Philippines. Under collective bargaining agreements or CBAs, negotiating and implementing CBAs for government employees, public sector unions may engage in negotiations for better working conditions, benefits, and salaries. Disputes can arise during CBA negotiations, and failure to reach an agreement may lead to potential strikes or other industrial actions. Under health and safety compliance, ensuring compliance with occupational health and safety regulations. So ensuring that there is a safe working environment for public employees and addressing concerns related to workplace safety and health, including during public health emergencies. Under ethical consideration, public administration involves adherence to principles and values that promote integrity, transparency, and responsive governance. Conflict of interest. Situations where public officials have personal or financial interests that may influence their decision making. For example, a government official involved in awarding contracts to a business in which they have a financial stake, creating a conflict of interest. Providing preferential treatment to certain groups or individuals based on personal connections or political affiliations, such as distributing government resources or services disproportionately to supporters of a particular political figure is what we call clientelism. Misuse of public funds have been discussed already. Abuse of authority, if there is excessive or improper use of power by public officials. Government officials using their positions to intimidate or coerce individuals bypassing established procedures. Section 1 of Article 11 of the 1987 Constitution says that public office is a public trust. Public officers, therefore, and employees must at all times be accountable to the people, serve them with utmost responsibility, integrity, loyalty, and efficiency, and act with patriotism and justice and lead modest life. And this was strengthened by the passage of the RA 6713, an act establishing a code of conduct and ethical standards for public officials and employees in the Philippines. Section 4 of that Republic Act enumerated the norms of conduct of public officials and employees. So every public official and employees shall observe the following standard of personal conduct in the discharge and execution of official duties. First is commitment to public interest, followed by professionalism, justness, and sincerity. Justness, political neutrality, responsiveness to the public, nationalism and patriotism, commitment to democracy, and simple living. Other emerging legal issues. First, digital governance and data privacy. The increasing digitalization of government services raises concerns about data privacy, security, and the proper use of citizens' personal information. Second, e-government and cybersecurity. The implementation of e-government initiatives necessitates a focus on cybersecurity to protect government systems and data from cyber threats and attacks. Climate change and environmental governance. The Philippine country faces environmental challenges and legal issues related to climate change adaptation, environmental protection, and sustainable development are becoming more prominent. Next, emergency powers and pandemic response. The grant of emergency powers to the executive branch during public health crises like the COVID-19 pandemic raises questions about the balance between executive authority and constitutional safeguards. Under health and public health regulations, the legal framework for healthcare and public regulations, especially in response to health crises, is evolving and may face ongoing adjustments based on experience and lesson learned. And then, on constitutional reform, discussions on constitutional amendments or revisions to address evolving needs and challenges in governments including potential changes in the structure of government and economic policies. A very timely example is the ongoing campaign for the revision of our Constitution. In a strongly worded manifesto signed by 24 senators, the Senate rejected the House of Representatives' bid for charter change through a people's initiative amid allegations of bribery in securing signatures for the campaign. Senate President Subiri shared concerns that once constitutional amendments would go beyond the economic provisions of the constitutions and will include lifting term limits that would allow politicians to stay longer in power. The Senate President also slammed the House push to amend the Constitution through a constitutional assembly. Under the mode, the Senate and the House of Representatives will convene into a constituent assembly and will not vote separately, diluting the voice of the senators. So we fear that if Chacha, through People's Initiative, pushes through, it will destabilize the principle of bicameralism and our system of checks and balances. In early January, signature documents began circulating nationwide, seeking to amend the Constitution to allow the House and the Senate to vote as one when a motion to confirm a constituent assembly is called. In that scenario, the House can force the Senate's hand, as the 24th Senate is essentially outnumbered by the 300-plus member of the lower house. Under this method, 3% of voters in every legislative district of the Philippines and 12% of the national voting population must sign a petition in favor of an amendment in the 1987 Constitution. The COMELEC has received signature documents from some 900 out of over 1,600 cities and municipalities across the country. So, in summary, the study of legal and regulatory challenges in the Philippine public administration landscape covers a broad spectrum of crucial topics. It begins with understanding how the Constitution shapes administrative practices and delves into the ever-changing world of statutes. Local government units, particularly barangays, grapple with compliance challenges, requiring a delicate balance between national standards and community-specific needs. The battle against corruption, a prevalent issue in Philippine governance, necessitates a thorough grasp of legal tools for ensuring accountability and transparency, especially at the grassroots level. Environmental governance, ethical decision-making, and the intersection of human rights with administrative law contribute additional layers to the complex legal landscape faced by national, provincial, municipal administrators. So, there are no questions. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.